We have a great show today. Joining us is Stan Catrell. Stan ran 3,000 miles across the United States in 100 days, lifelong 275,000 miles, and totally is the epitome of anti-aging. Optimal health and performance. You're going to get the tips from the very best right here. Top Gun trainer Christian. We'll be right back. I love that intro, Christian. Get you ready.
Yeah.
We're ready. We are here. We are here. We are joined by Stan Catrell, an amazing story, 80 years old. He has done so much in 3 lifetimes, but he's going to share with you his journey and share with us his wisdom, and what he's accomplished is truly a defying feat. So welcome to our show, Stan. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today.
I've waited 79 years to have this interview.
And here we are.
And here we are. I knew it was going to happen. I just didn't know when. I didn't know it was going to take this long.
Well, we're very excited to have you here, Stan, and so much I want to talk about. Of course, we have the phenomenal group you're aligned with, the Complete Circle of Care, Abigail, Abowitz, Fiona, and Gisela, a great team of people there. I know that you're going to be a keynote speaker at an upcoming event in Memphis, which hopefully we're going to get Christian out there. And it's just some fun stuff coming up, some very informative, valuable information at these events. But Stan, I just want to talk about first that we have a lot to talk about. Want to know more about your history and what you've done. You have so many different certifications through so many fitness organizations, also. But so you ran 3,000 miles, correct? 3,000 miles in 100 days, which comes out to 30 miles a day. So in our world, we have that little word called recovery. So I'm thinking a 10-mile run, I'm going to need a few days to recover from.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine 30 miles. Let's sleep for about 2 hours and do it again. How does that work, Stan? Share how did you do that? How did you do that? Has anyone done that? I mean, I don't even know.
Well, I don't know of anybody that's run more than 275,000 miles in their life. When I finished the run 2 years ago, some of these people that keep those kind of records, they said, you smashed the world record on the most miles that anybody's ever run in a lifetime. And the last recorded thing was 241,000. So I broke it by 29,000 miles, I believe, the old record for the most miles run. But that's okay. But I mean, I think, and the big thing is how marvelous the human body is. What an incredible what an incredible entity that we are, fearfully and marvelously and wonderfully and skillfully wrought. And I think it was Michelangelo. He was blind and he was feeling the statue of David that he created, and he says, "I'm still learning," and I have barely. In my 79 years, I'll be 80 here in about 5 days, 6 days, whatever it is. But
happy birthday!
I'm still learning. I barely scratched the surface of human potential, and I'm utilizing all the components. I've been a lifelong student of physiology, and even when I was a child, I didn't know anything about these big words and so forth. And I heard our brother there with his hand up on your shoulder there and talking about various things, and I was hollering, "It's the sits muscle! It's the the infraspinatus, and the I don't know. There's four muscles there, and it is just incredible." And the subscapularis and all that goes on there. But to do what I do, you have to be an ongoing student in physiology and biokinetics and all these other type of things. And so I'm still discovering at 80 years old and 275,000 miles, I'm just I'm just beginning to scratch the surface as far as human potential. But it all depends on from the nose up as well as the nose down, and and if you it's like a Ferrari car. If you put the wrong octane in a Ferrari, it's just going to be a pretty car sitting on the side of the road. It's not going anywhere. The motor's going to knock. So ever since a child, I was my own human performance laboratory. I was intuitively figuring out things. I grew up in the backwoods. I know. My daughter always gets on me. Oh God, Dad, you're not going to tell that old poor boy growing up in the backwoods, Kentucky. But it's part of my heritage. And at 5 years old, Daddy would wake me up in the morning and say, "You got to go get the cows in, fetch them in." And
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
and that was the code of the hills. Your
Well,
daddy,
Stan, I want to talk about, not to interrupt you, but key word here, which actually named Christian's company, Relentless Fitness and Nutrition. So the word relentless comes to mind with you, mental fortitude, mindset, as you said, human performance. These are all things and Christian we're also interested in. And how does someone at that level, doing what you've done, there had to be times when your body just wanted to collapse. I can't imagine, just one 30-mile run. I've ran 15, I've run 20 miles before, and I know I felt after that, but then I can't imagine doing it like day 2, day 3, day 4. So how do you get the body to actually do that? And how were you consuming food? What foods were you consuming? How much sleep did you get in that time period?
I need to correct one word you've used there. It's you said mindset. I get rid of the word mindset because it's a mind style.
A
Excuse me.
mind style?
Yeah.
Mind style.
Another book that I'm writing is called The Mind Style of the Achiever. And the first time I ran across the United States, every reporter, "What are you protesting? What are you protesting?" I said, "I'm not protesting anything." And then one day, after about 2,000 miles, a reporter, "Are you protesting something? Is this some kind of cause?" And so forth. And I said, "No." I said, yes, I am protesting." And their eyes got as big as teacups. And I said, "I'm protesting psychosclerosis or hardening of the mind." And so instead of just saying, in the words "I can't," you might as well use God's name in vain, is to say "I can't." And it just means "I won't," or you can go. That's a whole nother subject. But what I've been able to do, the average person, for instance, has 1.87 capillaries per millimeter cube of muscle fiber. The average person, in taking a breath of air, it's called the oxygen uptake. If somebody that's listening in, and is it Chris there beside you?
Christian, yes, correct.
Yes. And Kristen, I'm going to use something here that you'll say, yeah, baby, that's good, because you know this physiology. We're talking about the alveolar ventilation perfusion ratio, or the oxygen uptake. And so that I can go on in this, there's 9 words that makes you an expert. Anybody that knows these 9 words, they can sit in any crowd of PhDs, MDs, all these people. There's 3 components of training: strength, stamina, flexibility. Every exercise, you can tie yourself up into a pretzel. Every exercise modality that you do will fit in one of those 3 cubby holes. Christian, are we okay there?
100%.
Okay. Oh, hallelujah. I'll give you a big hug. There's 6 other words. Drum roll, please. And this is it. This is the magic. How well the body utilizes oxygen.
Yes.
And the average person, out of a breath of air, Rob, an average breath is 500 milliliters. A person that's in the hospital, they'll put them on a ventilator, and 4 or 5 times an hour, they set the settings, and it's called a sigh. You go, the body will take a big, deep breath. Physiologically, you need to be able to take a more than just a 500 milliliter breath. But in that 500 milliliters, oxygen makes up 105 milliliters of the 500 milliliters. Now, out of that 105 milliliters, the average person is assimilating or bringing in 38 to 42 milliliters of oxygen. Well, and you wonder why a person gets out of breath. They'll say, "I can't run into that mailbox," and it's because their body. You go into the body is not uh, able to extrapolate because of a lack of that microbial highway, those little capillaries and so forth. The average person, 1.87 capillaries, and they've studied me, and I have 3.87 capillaries per millimeter cube.
Wow.
So my body, my heart, my cardiovascular system, and this is what exercise does for everybody, it remodels you. Christian, we okay there so far?
I'm with you.
Can I get an amen?
Amen.
And and so, but this is the benefit. When I'm talking to the folks out here, and the vast majority of people, I say, I don't want you to quit your smoking, whatever your bad habits are. I'm not going to come in here and tell you thou shalt not, thou shalt not. And but I'll say what I would like for you to do: make a covenant with yourself that I want you to get up in the morning and I want you to walk 7.5 minutes out and turn around and walk 7.5 minutes back. Now, don't stop and pet the little neighbor's dog. Just 7.5 minutes out and 7.5 minutes back. Don't get out of breath. Move. And then at nighttime, now we're going to do this for 5 days. I want you to do another 15-minute walk, turn around and walk back. That's it. That's it. Because in the body, it starts a process. Get moving. And that's my whole theme. Get moving and rediscover those appendages that are hooked into the hips up there. Those are called legs. And those legs are made for walking, made for moving. And so.
Well, let me interrupt there for a minute, Stan. So it brings me to the point, Christian. You're exactly 100%, obviously, Stan, that more people have to get up and moving. But we're talking about most people, especially office work, is sitting in that chair all day long. And so I just want Christian to mention some of the things we were talking about earlier, Stan, that ties in with what you just said. People are sedentary or just sitting down all day long. The implications or complications that can be caused if you're not doing the right things.
100%. So I 100% agree with Stan in the fact that you have to move. The presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. I've got that from Gary Brecka.
There you go.
And
He's awesome.
I'm 100% on board with the fact that most people do not consume enough oxygen. Their bodies cannot utilize enough oxygen, and they don't move enough throughout the day. So to that person who sits at a desk all day, set a timer, right? Your longevity is more important than what needs to be done in the moment, meaning you can take minutes out of your day, go for a walk around the office.
Stan just said 7.5 minutes. Can I get an amen, Stan?
Exactly. I think that if you use these devices that we have that a lot of people waste time on rather than making themselves better with,
Right.
set the timer once an hour, walk for 2 minutes, right? In the morning, like Stan said, when you get out of bed, go for a 7.5 minutes out, 7.5 minutes in.
And I love that because that's so reasonable. And then that's the
100%.
biggest mistake people make when they can't even get moving is they put too much on themselves.
Yes.
Can't get it done.
I'm going to do an hour.
100%.
No.
So now what do you think that's going to do? If you could do 7.5 minutes, that's going to build a habit. That habit's going to get stronger. And then as you said, Stan, too, you're going to build on that. Now, suddenly 7.5 minutes becomes 15 minutes there and back.
Exactly.
But for creating those points. But thanks for bringing that up, Stan. I just wanted to get Christian's insights there because that's important. Sitting all day long, even myself, sitting all day long, getting up because what the causes, as you mentioned, even carrying all the way down to the calf.
100%.
Yeah. All right. So, Stan, carry on, my man.
And whoever came up with the idea, no pain, no gain, they don't understand physiological principles. And if they're dead, whoever came up with it, let's the three of us go try to find that grave and dig that body up and burn those bones. That is the worst thing in the world that's ever been perpetrated out here.
Well, I can't. You know what, Stan? That's what I did back in the day. That was the right way back. That's the way we. Now it's very different. It was just keep going, keep driving. But there's so many different components. Science and recovery and sleep and what the damage of sleep deprivation. If you're not, but again, Stan, I'm just fascinated with what does it take for the body to do what you did with what kind of foods were you taking in, and how often were you able to eat and sleep
I have
over
a
that?
I have a little nutritional talk that I've come up with, and I've entitled it "Get Off Your Fatty Acids," and that is so right, Christian. Okay, uh, so many in America, we're the most overfed nation in the world to be the most undernourished.
Mm,
Oftentimes, the cardboard in a box of cereal has more nutrition than the cereal itself,
He's right.
and you put a label on it, and America's going to eat it. And I ask myself every time that I put food in my mouth, I ask myself one or two questions: Is this for recreation or is it for nutrition? Unfortunately, in America, 70% to almost 80% of everything that goes in that mouth is for recreation rather than nutrition. And I mean, I had a Snickers candy bar last year. I'm not going to lie about it. I mean, I confess
Last year, I love
yes, and it tasted so good. And when I go back home to Kentucky, see, I was raised on flour, gravy, and biscuits, and pinto beans and cornbread. And there's nothing wrong with pinto beans. I couldn't be the man I am today had it not been for pinto beans. But flour, gravy, and biscuits 7 days a week, year in and year out. And one time a year, I'll have my flour, gravy, and biscuits. Oh, it's a memory.
Mm.
And with my fried apples with that. But that's one time a year. You don't be harsh on yourself. And because when I eat that, I say, I've missed that taste. But you don't do it 7 days a week. And
Mm.
stop and think, is it recreation and nutrition? And 90% of plus of time I choose for nutrition. And the like I say, this body that I'm 5'8" and 137 pounds. And so what I've been able to do, I put the right fuel. You can never go wrong eating vegetables. You will never go wrong eating fruits and vegetables. And
What
I
about
love
meats, Stan? What kind of meats do you eat?
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
And the um, I eat a lot of grilled chicken or fish, and chicken and fish. You'll never go wrong there. Every once in a while, if I go to somebody's house and they fixed it, and recently this lady says, "Oh, I've just marinated this pork tenderloin for 2 days, honey. Oh, it's going to be so good, and Mama just can't wait for you to have some of this." Well, I'm not going to be rude, and I'm not going to take a second helping, but I had a piece of pork tenderloin. But anything that's fried, um, or you take white bread, for instance, they take out 57 ingredients and put 4 ingredients back into it, and they call it enriched. There's an old saying: the whiter your bread, the sooner you're dead. And it's just something to think about. I mean, really. And so I eat for nutrition. I put in high octane fuel. That doesn't mean you have to go down here and buy these mind boggling prices that we're paying now to have good nutrition. And so you put the right fuel in, and the body will respond accordingly. We have the highest rate of hypertension in the world.
Mm.
Cardiac disease is our number one killer. Last year, 600,000 people died of a sudden heart attack. They didn't even know they had any heart problem at all. Because let's face it, when you when you're when you when you're 20s and 30s and your 40s, you feel like you can walk on greased pig manure and never leave a footprint. But it, things just, I mean, there's nature has a way of bringing you down low. One extra pound of fat requires 3,500 feet of additional capillaries to be able to nourish that pound of fat. You're 10 pounds overweight. You have 7 miles of extra capillaries that heart has to and that heart stroke volume to push that blood through there to be oxygenated. 90% 90% of the blood flows through the visceral, that microscopic capillaries. And so many people they're having, they got diabetes, there's circulation problems and this and that. But just exercise, get to moving. We were designed to move. It pays dividends. It pays healthy dividends. It keeps you in the race. And that's basically the background. And I know I need to take a break here, but I don't.
No, you're good, Stan. You're good. We're listening and learning.
And the thing that I've been able, it's every step toward progress is a stepping stone to the next, to the next, to the next. I set the world record running across the U.S. in 1980, and I averaged 66 miles a day for 48 consecutive days. I broke the old world record by 5 days. I set a 24-hour world record, and I ran 167 and a quarter miles in 24 hours. And I've run across 43 different countries. I've run the Great Wall of China, all these crazy things. Now, the Chinese, it's so funny. When I was running there, I kept saying, I need some potatoes. And they wouldn't let me have potatoes for about 40 days. And finally, I said, why can't I have some potatoes? They said, well, that's peasant food. I said, that's wonderful because I was born and raised a peasant. I've got to have peasant food. If I don't have peasant food, I'm going to die. Well, the last 12 days, I had 3 meals a day of nothing but potatoes. So it's kind of overload. But it's being one thing. You take. I have a lot of friends that are weightlifters, and some of these people that are pro football players, and I can't tell you the number of those that I've trained. But I said, I want you to unlearn everything that you've ever learned and go with me on this. I said, we're going to build from the inside out. I know so many people, oh, look at me, mama. And they take their shirts off and they're, I'm not going to embarrass myself showing you my muscle here. If you're a Christian there. And, but it's like my illustration is get a straw, hold your nose and try to breathe through that straw. And they'll all of a sudden, I can't do it. Well, that's what happens. A lot of people think the outside. I had a friend that was a Mr. Universe at one time. I was in Marine Corps boot camp with him, officer training, and he went on and he says, I don't get it. And I mean, when he walked out there, I mean, he was even in officer training, he was, doing the poses and shaving the hair off his chest and all that junk. And I don't mean junk. I'm not minimizing whatever they do, but he couldn't jog 100 yards hardly. And because he's not building from the inside out, you build cardiovascular, you build those levels of endurance. It's level 1, which is stability and mobility, and level 4 is high performance. But 80% of your training should be conducted where it's aerobic type conditioning. You're not getting out of breath. The high performance athletes, yes, they go on into that, but never more than 20%. But 80% of your training, you should always be able to carry on a conversational pace. And that's what I've done over the years in being able to build. And at 80 years old, I'm looking forward to my next 10 years. I'm praying that additional days will be added, but I feel like Caleb in the Bible. Give me that mountain. I've never been stronger.
So Stan, I want to ask Christian. He's we're talking about aerobics mainly, and when you're training people, but we know that no two are the same. Are you faster paced between sets, for example, in strength training? Are you more recovery? But again, dependent, I guess, on goals, right? More recovery between the set if you're going for strength and power. Right?
That's a great question. So, like you said, it's always dependent on goals, but for the most part, people just want to look good, feel good, live long, right? Be able to pick their kids up, grandkids up. So there's always an aerobic component because, as Stan said, and I 100% agree, oxygen, right? If your body can utilize oxygen, you have better capillarization. That helps with, insulin sensitivity, disease prevention. And I think that it's great to be big and strong if that's your goal. But with that, you should also have a good cardiovascular base. So if I have clients who say, I want to build muscle, I say, great, we're also going to build a cardiovascular base. Because if you need to run 100 yards or get up that flight of stairs, a burning building, pick your kids up, walk with them,
So they're not going to get that just through strength training.
Correct.
Right.
Sure, you can lift weights faster, but the nature of building strength, you're not working on a cardiovascular base. That's not the intention, but you want to marry them together to some degree.
And then what would your typical guideline be for someone new? Again, no two are alike, but just starting out, what would you recommend? So Stan said just for someone starting out, 7.5 minute walk. But if they're doing your strength training, do you have them on a 20-minute treadmill or 30-minute treadmill?
Great question. So I'd say first and foremost, walking is one of the easiest ways to get some aerobic work in. The other thing I'll tell people is do what you enjoy. Because some people say, well, do I have to go on the treadmill? No.
Yeah.
Do you like hiking? That's great, right? Put a backpack on, go hike.
Yeah.
If it's bike rides, then go do some bike rides. But I'd say at the very least, if you're a busy person and you can't necessarily fit those specific things in, go for a walk. Go on your lunch break. I love to have my clients go when they first wake up in the morning. I tell them, earn your breakfast.
Yeah.
Go out for 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Or if at night is when you can do it, that's fine, but just get it in. And if you have to break it up throughout the day, it's better than nothing.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So Stan, you have so many certifications there. How many certifications do you have? And I know there's, I think ACE, American Council on Exercise. What other organizations did you get certified through as a trainer?
Well, there's another one that I'm very high on, and that's Fitness Mentors. But ACE is the gold standard. I mean, there's a number of the American College of Sports Medicine has a trainer program.
National Academy of Sports Medicine, International Sports Science Association. They're all great organizations. So, when did you start the trainer journey?
When I was 75.
Really?
And the other thing,
Awesome. Yeah.
I completed one a year and a half ago, and this is drum roll. This is the humdinger. You have a lot of. I was looking with ACE, the American Council of Exercise, and there's many organizations that will not hire you unless you have that credential, the ACE certification. That is considered the gold standard. Christian, I mean.
Yeah, well, we identify with several of them, and we are all, they're global leaders in each of their own. But there's definitely the top few that we mentioned there, or that we both mentioned. National Academy of Sports Medicine, they're awesome. ACE is awesome, obviously. ISSA and American College of Sports Medicine. So they're out there. You just have to do, for trainers out there looking just to get into it, those would be the ones I would recommend you look into.
And there's some people say, "Oh, I'm a certified trainer," and I say, "Well, where did you go?" Well, and I look at them, I say, "Well, that's interesting," but I'd never want to reprimand anybody. But I go back and look, and going online and take a 1 hour course.
No, they're out there for sure. Yeah, for that piece of paper. Yeah.
People want that little magic piece of paper, and then their final exam, the only exam they have is 10 questions, and you can take it over and over and over till you pass those 10 questions. And then, so it gives us all a bad name. But like with ACE, I looked the other day, and I think ACE has 78,000 certified trainers, and I'm a certified personal trainer. I'm a certified health coach. I'm a certified group fitness instructor, and I'm a certified the other one, and this is the granddaddy. And out of all these thousands and thousands, I think there's less than 1,000 of us that passed this one. This is the toughest exam I ever had in my life, and I mean, I sweated blood with it. And that's a certified medical exercise specialist, and that qualifies me that I can teach in the universities. I can work.
Who was that? Was that through ACE also?
Through ACE. That is
that's interesting.
There's less than 1,000 of us. When you compare that,
I've heard of it.
I was just asking Christian if he was familiar with that. You've heard of that?
Heard of it, yeah. But not many people get it.
Certified medical specialist?
Yeah.
Medical exercise specialist.
Exercise specialist.
And then, so you have a master's degree in exercise physiology?
No. I don't have a master's degree. Yeah.
So you have a degree in exercise science?
Exercise science, correct. Yeah. And then a certified nutritionist.
Certified nutritionist. And you go to one of the organizations?
So I also have my personal training certification.
Precision Nutrition.
Precision,
It's a great organization too.
100%.
Yeah.
And then I have a number of specialists. I'm a behavior modification specialist, a weight management specialist, a senior fitness specialist, an orthopedic exercise specialist, a youth.
And this all started at 75?
75 to get those pieces of paper. I had a master's degree in wellness.
2,000 miles or 3,000 miles. 3,000 miles on the road, 3,000 miles on the studies.
Yeah.
Well, and everybody be concerned about me, and every time I'm taking a break, or if I'm out there just running, and some of the crew that's riding along beside me or whatever, and they're bored, I say, read to me out of the book. You might learn something, and I'll be blessed by it as well. So,
Stan, how long does it take you to recover? Back to what I was saying earlier, when you're doing a run, especially a run like that. So I don't even know when recovery day is because there's no recovery day. So your runs, I would assume, if you're doing the 30 miles, what do I think you average an hour? 6, 7, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8 miles?
in there, you can usually set a clock to it, and I'm running. When I ran across the United States the first time, I was doing 7:05. I mean, it even amazed me. 7:05, 7:05 all day long.
7:05,
7-minute mile.
7-minute miles.
Yeah.
Oof.
And but at this season of my life, I'm 7:30 per mile, 7:40, somewhere in that.
So how many miles are you? So you're doing 30 miles a day. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then so you get back, you get home. So what do? You do a ice bath when you get in, or what's your routine after day one? Say day one, you're on the road, you've done 30 miles, and then I would imagine that sort of change depending upon how you feel. Maybe one day a little bit more or less. Would that be correct?
Well, I have a little formula that I've adapted called even flow of energy distribution, EFED, and even flow of emotional distribution. And so I'm in my zone, locked and loaded. But here's another little piece of information that will add to what we're saying. They've done all these, every time I turn around, these exercise and researchers are wanting to poke and probe, but I say, I don't want you cutting on me, but you can do any other thing you want to do. But to run an average of 66 miles a day, that it comes out to about 9,000 calories, 9,600 and some calories for the average person. Well, you got a problem. That comes out to about 25 pounds of food and liquid. So you got a bolus problem, and you don't need to be looking like a Pillsbury Doughboy. I'm skin just stretched across bone. But what they found with me is I can run all day long on about 3,000 calories. So I can go 3 times longer on a calorie than the average person. Now, they don't know what parts are hereditary and what parts acquired. It's an ongoing study. But what I'm able to do, there's a little company out of Germany that came about in World War II because they had so many burn patients that couldn't, and they developed a liquid. The liquid in 10 ounces, I get 1,000 calories. It's already 50% digested, medium chain triglycerides, and I drink 3 of those a day. So I'm not having to carry around this big bolus and all that work it's going to digest and elimination and all that. So I'm fuel efficient. I can go longer on a calorie. And so, and the other thing I found is they don't know what part's hereditary and what part's acquired, but I don't produce lactic acid the way the normal person does, which is fatigue poisoning, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So my Lord, that little old boy, he can just keep on running. Look at there, Martha.
Yeah.
Look at he's just continuing to go and go and go.
That's amazing. So what about, that's a lot of wear and tear on the joints running that amount of distances. Have you ever had any issues with knees or back? Because that's quite an accomplishment, a hard one at that.
When I was running across China, the only and this kind of blew everybody's mind. I'd been running about 1,000 miles, and 49 of the 53 days that I was there was spent in the forbidden zones, and they had me running up over these mountains and all this kind of stuff. And the ground gave way, and I fell some 200 feet, and I broke the L4 and L5.
Oh,
and I ran the last 1,000 miles with 2 broken vertebrae.
wow.
And there's a feature-length movie. Anybody wants to go online and watch it?
Exactly.
And it's called China Run. You can go on YouTube and watch it. It doesn't cost you anything. But it was a feature-length movie, and China Run. I don't get any royalties from it if you're watching on YouTube, so have a good time with it. And you can see all these things.
Yeah, that reminds me of Christian and I both looked at each other. We thought the first person we thought of was David Goggins,
Yeah.
But it brings me back to that original words were relentless, mental fortitude, and it is truly incredible. That's why I love like Navy SEAL stories.
Yeah.
I mean, what you put your mind through
Hmm.
that you just where most just can't and
Bud's
won't.
training.
They just won't. Oh,
Terrible.
it's unbelievable.
It's awesome.
Right. So I watched that, and I'm watching, I love going on YouTube, watching that's what I use YouTube for, all those,
Same
that,
here.
that type of informative, inspiring stories. But that's incredible, Stan, to do that. And then under those conditions, but again, it's just that the testament to mental fortitude, the will. I always would say, never underestimate the strength and power of the human spirit, the will to work and the will to win. It's not just the will to win, it's the will to work. And you put the work in, obviously, Stan. So you have upcoming, you're working with Complete Circle of Care right now. Abigail with an awesome team of people. So for those of you that are not familiar, Complete Circle of Care is traveling around the country at these different events. Upcoming is Memphis. We just finished Phoenix, and I'll be joining them on their journey there. As I mentioned, hopefully Christian will be with us in Memphis. We have Chicago, and then we have Resorts World in Las Vegas. And basically what this is, it's on the same premise as Muscle Fitness Plus. It's about education and the show, education, raising awareness. And we're getting the top speakers, panelists in, where they're going to be sharing their wealth, their knowledge, their stories with the listeners. And in this case, it will be a live event. So talk a little bit about that, because you are the keynote speaker at the upcoming event in Memphis, Stan. So mention, what's your connection with Abigail? How did that happen? And then what will you be talking about at the Complete Circle of Care?
I always get a big charge out of, my mind goes back to, I took a speech class in college, and the teacher calls me in at the end of the semester, and she said, "How did you ever get in college?" She said, "It had to have been some kind of administrative fiat, whatever that was." And she said, "You never successfully gave us a full speech." I said, "I did have a right hard time with that." She said, "You're never going to be this, you're never going to be that." And she said, "Mr. Cottrell, watching you try to give a speech has been the most psychopathological thing I've ever witnessed to date." So, and now I wish she was alive so I could go back and say, "I'm going to be the keynote speaker here, honey." And anyway, yes, I'm there was a time that I ran for one thing and one thing only, and that was to see my name in the record books. And Christian, I like your name. I love your name, because I had an encounter and said, "You're running for all the wrong reasons." And the thing I noticed is I was amazed at the amount of people that were coming out and waiting on the side of the road for me to come by. And could we have a picture with you? Would you speak to our students just for a few minutes? It'd be so blessed if you'd say this. And I realized that what I do is a powerful, non-threatening way to communicate with people. When we were in elementary school, it was called recess. We went out and we played together. So what I'm able to do is, through my running, people come out and run with me, and there's a thing called psychic income, and you can't put a dollar value on it. And if you're going to live a successful life, discover what you do well and do more of it. Christian has found that area, and I know I'm going to just enjoy. I hope we get to know each other. I'm going to just learn from you and just all the things you have to say, and Rob. But and I love being able to be identified, um, like with Abby and what she's doing, and taking the message out there, because fitness gets a bad rep, because when I was in school, the coaches used it as a punishment technique. "Give me 50 push-ups, boy." When I was in the Marine Corps, "Give me 50 push-ups. Thank you for the privilege of asking me to do 50 push-ups, and you've got to run. And thank you for that priceless privilege." But it's the joy of living a fitness lifestyle. It does not have to be equated with pain and punishment. I mean, every day that I run 30 miles, I feel like I've had a good massage. My body just says, "Thank you, I need that." Is that extreme? Yeah, it's extreme. But if this little old body can get on down the road, surely you can run 15 or 20 minutes. And here is a forum. Here is a forum to be able to do something with your life that goes beyond you. And I'm not on a quest for egomaniacal martyrdom. And it's about, to whom much has been given, all this knowledge that's been poured into me, these timeless principles, I love to pour it right back out. And I love talking with people and sharing with people and sharing what I've learned on my road. And so the running, it's what I do well. And it gives me a forum. My gosh, look here. I'm talking with Rob and Christian today. Like I said, I've waited 79 years for this.
So one thing is they say when you find your passion, that's what's going to give you sustainability. So Christian, you too, as Stan said, what drives people to do what they do, especially at that level. So you figured out your why. And so what was that why? What was the defining or moment or thing that happened in your life that said, this is what I want to do? And they get such great gratification where you wake up every day wanting to do it. And that's why you can put in the hours that you do, et cetera.
But yeah, so when I was working back when I was a trainer at Equinox, and I worked with all those men over 40 who had similar issues, but also similar desires. They wanted to be better providers, protectors for their family. They wanted to look good, but feel great, and also be able to play with their kids. And then helping these guys and seeing how much it changed their lives, but not only theirs, but their families' lives. And then
the whole dynamic, the whole trickle effect.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm glad Stan brought these things up, is it's not so much about what we do for ourselves, but it's how we can affect others. Because there's many people that we affect and inspire that we don't realize. When you're running down the street and someone else sees you, how many people say, you know what, I should be doing that. I got to get back to that.
No words exchanged. No, just a vision.
Exactly. And then with me, when my mom was diagnosed with diabetes, and then we got her through it, and now she doesn't need insulin.
That was your drive. What was your drive?
And I'm like, oh, well, if I helped her, I know I can help other people, and I do now. And being a nutritionist, it's like, I think, so there's the speaking of special forces, I listen to that stuff all the time.
Awesome, right?
Yeah. And there's a special forces individual who was on Andy Frisella's podcast. And one of the things that he said, which was very defining, is he had done a 24-hour run for one of his brothers who had died in combat. And he wrote something on a piece of tape, and he put that piece of tape on the treadmill, and it said, "For those who can't."
Oof.
So when I think about, and Stan mentioned it, it's not about I have to go do, because you don't have to.
We tapped on this earlier.
Exactly. You get to.
Yeah.
Think about if you lost your legs, right? And you spent your whole life complaining about exercise. I hate doing this. I hate doing that. What about how you'd feel right after you lost them? I would just love to walk. Man, if I could just go out and get a breath of fresh air on my own two legs. And that's why I watch those pages, like those adaptive athletes. It's like, listen, anytime I want to complain, I always think to myself, you don't have the right to complain. Look how many people, and I consider myself fortunate that other people come to me and say, oh, you're really inspiring. That's great. I'm just doing what I love to do. I'm glad that you take something from that. But I always think about that as like, if I'm going through something tough, I know that what I'm experiencing, I'll be able to help other people with something. And through me being my best self, I'm going to help bring the best out in other people. Right. So that for those who can't, that's something that hits me deeply.
That was deep. That was a good one for those who can't.
And Christian, when I talk to, and I have the opportunity of speaking to a lot of the youth and so forth, and I just pick a number, probably 5 million, just the youth in our country alone. And I say there's 4 outs. There's cop-outs, dropouts, and holdouts. But for me, as a young child, I didn't have the words to put this in, but now, older and hopefully a little wiser, I am. It's all out. Every day, I choose to be all out. And when you're average, you're just as far from the bottom as you are the top. And I've never found much cheer in being average and looking at someone's rear. And it's every day I have the motto of all out. And yes, I'm a human being. I'm a human being. I'm naked to hurt. I've been pierced by sorrow, but I'm born to love. I love what I do. I love people. I love God. And that's with all my heart, soul, and liver and gizzard and every other thing. And then the second thing is I love my neighbor as I love myself. And I love every person I meet. There is that agape love that I feel because we are all one blood all over the earth. We all are created by the same creator. And it's sharing these kind of messages to inspire, to help you run a little bit further. And every time that I feel like I can't go, and Rob, this last time running across the United States, Abby took me on a different route than I'd ever been before. But I had 18 miles going up this one mountain in Arizona, and it was 118 degrees. And prior to getting there, there was like 20 miles of just black pitch asphalt that had just been poured in that 118-degree heat, and you couldn't move either to the left or the right off the road. And there were some people that they had shoes, certain shoes that the soles melted. And I'm going to tell you that is boogerish to say the least. And then I had, after I got off that hot road, and that the road temperatures was like 150, 160 degrees, and you were baked. And then I had that 18 miles. And whenever I feel that I can't go any longer, and I cannot tell you the number of times that going up that, I would cry out, "Dear Lord, give me the strength to go 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes." And I find that, well, here I am today, here we are, and that God has given us all those 5 more minute moments. And yet here we are, celebrating life, celebrating who each of us are in the contributions that we're making, and the people that have helped make it possible that we're here today, and what we're doing not only today. And somebody said, "You always talk about miracles. I never ever have a miracle." I said, "Well, you idiot, you woke up this morning, didn't you? Count your blessings." So, but then there's times I am hungry. I am eager to run down the road and Willie Nelson saying he came out and ran with me one time. Willie did. He ran a mile. People found that hard to believe, but he did. But making new friends in new places. Lord, I've got to run.
Well, Stan, we have a couple of minutes left here, so I want to close out with a couple of things. We are with Stan Catrell, an incredible human. And Stan, thank you so much for sharing such powerful stories and messages. A complete joy to have you on, and Christian, of course, always having you on. Great, inspiring stories, and like I said, valuable information. And for the listeners, I think out there, it is amazing what the mind can do. If you have to see it first, and then it will happen. But the why, the purpose, to find who you are and what you want to be, and what to find your passion. And you have 2 perfect examples right here. You can do whatever you want to do, but the beautiful thing about what I think we all do here is the impact we want to give out and make on other people's lives. So we can't do it for you, like we always say. You got to do it for yourself. Stan, do you have any social media information you would like to give out to our listeners and share, or a website?
Well, right now everything is under construction, and Rob, I'm going to be looking to you to help me out there.
Okay, you got it.
So we got some big plans. And like I say, I've just barely scratched the surface of potential. And I thank you for this. And last point is, the mind flows, the body goes. And let's all 3 say that magic word we started with. 1, 2, 3.
Amen.
Amen.
Stan, thank you so much. And again, yes, Stan will be joining us on our Muscle and Fitness Plus platform. So up and coming, he'll have his social media, has great, exciting events coming up, speaker. And then, of course, you could follow Christian on Instagram and check out his channel too. His channel's awesome, super content. He's in Westchester, for those listeners out there in the Westchester area. But I am Rob Fletcher, Business Development Director for Muscle and Fitness Plus, and host, of course, of our podcast here. Please share any information you like. You can DM me at Rob Fletcher Podcast on Instagram, and who you'd like to see on the show, and what questions can we answer for you. Until then, live your best life.